Good afternoon. Thanks for coming to our periodic customer live stream update. I'm eager to fill you in on what's been going on for the last year or 9 months since we've last done one of these. 2024 ended up being a pretty big year for us. We processed $1.5 billion of orders on Fulcrum. We improved our efficiency. We went from about $80,000 of recurring revenue per employee to just over $200,000. That allowed us to drop our burn by about 75% from our peak and allowed us to extend our runway. So we don't have to raise capital from investors for a while, and we can spend some time refactoring our product a little bit and improve stability and usability. For 2025, we expect to process $2.7 billion in orders through Fulcrum and also continue to improve the efficiency of our employees. Today, I think what we'd like to talk mostly about is our strategy, how it's going to affect you, and what our plans are to accomplish our mission of creating a network of manufacturing, and how it's arriving here a little bit sooner than we expected. The last 6 months have probably been the most volatile period of time on record for manufacturers, even more so than the period during COVID. Unlike other periods of chaos, this period has been both equal parts uncertain, but also exciting. There's been a tremendous amount of uncertainty in the suppliers, availability of materials, pricing, lead times have been all over the place. And there's been uncertainty from customers. Demand is coming from different industries. They're ordering things in different ways and iterating on products more quickly. And there's also uncertainty about how we do our jobs with AI tools and lots of hype and a lot of articles about how we're automating away white-collar jobs. But there's also a lot of excitement. There's excitement in how our vendors have become more adaptable, more customer service driven, more technologically enabled. There's excitement in the overwhelming demand of high margin work that needs to be done from our customers that wouldn't have been equipped to handle it with a more complicated supply chain. And there's also excitement in what's possible from a technology perspective. About 6 months ago, we started a big effort to dig in deep to understand all these things, understand what's going on with vendors, understand what's going on with customers, understand what's going on with AI technology. And we want to show you some stuff that we found. And we'll start at the bottom of the supply chain with some work that we've been doing with Ryerson in helping you guys do procurement a little bit more automated. Ryan Bakken, who's been leading that team, is going to show you guys what we've been working on. Go ahead, Bakken.
Thanks, Sonny. Ever since COVID, the prices and availability for raw materials has been more volatile for a longer period of time than ever before. We also expect this volatility will continue for the foreseeable future. This means more RFQs, more phone calls, more missed deadlines, more pressure on margins, and more chaos in how our customers purchase. Your vendors are in the same boat as you. Over the last 3 months, we've built out a working prototype and pilot of being able to share data on inventory, prices, and lead times with a major distributor in the metal space. Ryerson has been much easier to work with than you'd think for such a large company, and is motivated by a customer service-minded approach and a commitment to technology being a source of value for their customers. On a nightly cadence, we will pull base prices for all your Ryerson items, giving you a roughly accurate price when quoting. These base prices will also be tied into purchase planning for a more streamlined experience. Once the PO is created, you'll see that the baseline prices have already been pulled in. You'll set your quantities and approve the PO as normal. New in this workflow is the validate with Ryerson step, which will get a live price from Ryerson and show you a breakdown of that pricing and how it compares to the baseline price. You can either cancel or accept this pricing. Once you click accept, the pricing on this PO will be locked and you're ready to send it off to Ryerson. Upon ordered status, Ryerson will confirm the order within 24 hours. The status of the order will automatically update here on the PO, and you will also get an email directly from Ryerson. While this is still in a pilot phase, it's obvious to us just how much value we can deliver to both our customers and to the distributors that serve you. It's not often that we can create a positive sum outcome, and we're really excited about what this can do to help you handle the volatility in the materials market. Back to you, Sonny.
Thanks, Bakken. Good work. Moving up the supply chain, within the walls of the businesses of our customers, there's also uncertainty in the way work will look going forward. There's been a lot of new AI model architectures that have created surprisingly complex functionality that's not obvious how we make it super useful. A lot of our customers have emailed me, called me, talked to me about how these technologies will impact them and how work will proceed in the future. And so we've actually done a lot. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and months of time. We've consulted with engineers and scientists from some of the leading foundational model companies. We've got a consultant that's working with us, that's an expert at some of these model generation techniques. And we've fine tuned stuff with some anonymized data that we have in Fulcrum to try to see what it can do and what it can't. What we do see clearly is that we can do some stuff with these technologies to remove the friction of inputting data into Fulcrum and maybe help you guys make some decisions a little bit better. We've had some of our best engineers come to Minneapolis and work on hacking together some prototypes so that we could actually play with them live. And we want to show you some. Ryan, go ahead.
All right. So the most important of the automated system is like the data that it has and the speed at which we can get in that information. As we're able to get better data in Fulcrum faster, every other part of the product is going to work better. By having better data available, purchasing planning, scheduling, demand planning, and engineering can all start to contribute to make better parts with higher throughput. So not only is our implementation of these features different, Fulcrum also has far more places for data to land and the richest interactions with that data between different parts of the system. However, the work for getting data into systems is also oftentimes tedious, uninteresting, time consuming, and error prone. So today I'm going to show you how our BOM importer is working and why it's different than others. So we started an initiative last year that if the information exists somewhere else, you shouldn't have to type it in. And what we started with was creating items and bills of materials. We looked at importing from various formats, but what we ended up realizing that the most universal format is actually the drawing. And I've heard from multiple people that the drawing is a source of truth for the part being made. So what we did is work on a model that you'd be able to like import a PDF where we read the item descriptions and the BOM tables from these. So right now we're using a document reader AI to look for the text description of the parts and a bill of materials table and be able to create these new parts into Fulcrum. And so even if it doesn't always work right 100% right now, what we wanted to do is get the groundwork in because these available AI models are getting better at a breakneck speed and will only get better in the future. As an example, somebody asked me a year ago if we could also like import routings from drawings, and I thought it was a crazy question to ask. I was like, "Are you asking me if we can look at a picture and know how to make a part?" Well, now we are a year later, and we tried it, and the next generation language models actually have enough manufacturing context to have a better understanding of like what it's reading and be able to infer what type of part we're making. For example, it'll know we're working with steel if we see like 836 in the materials list. It'll know it's being cut or punched by seeing holes and specifications for them. It'll know there's a bending operation if there's angles and specifications for those. And I even had one know that it was going to have a paint step at the end because it found a code to a very specific type of paint. And so we're working on continually improving this experience by taking advantage of the latest advances in available AI technology. And next, Travis is going to show you how we've applied these same principles to another industry-specific workflow.
All right. Well, so kind of as we were talking about, a lot of newer AI models have been applied in general use cases, but I've been impressed by what we've been able to achieve for specific industry uses. I'm sure you've all seen documents like I'm showing here. Customers who cut sheets need to solve the problem of nesting, whether they're cutting wood, rubber, or metal. Every single machine manufacturer has their own nesting solution, plus other standalone offerings on the market. We've been able to create a generalized solution that understands what nesting is and is able to read from dozens of different PDFs. As you can see, I drag the PDF in. The AI will take a second to parse it out. We're able to extract the images, how many times each sheet will run, the run time for each sheet, part counts for the total job, as well as often associating to the job itself. We're excited to be able to play with these learnings and infrastructure to help other types of shop their own industry-specific documents.
We'd also like you to be able to engage with and gain insight from your shop data more directly and more fluently than is possible just by pulling reports. To that end, we're working on putting an AI agent right into Fulcrum. Anywhere you go in the app, you can click that icon and it'll pull up this chat interface where you can ask questions in plain English. This can be anything from how to accomplish certain tasks in Fulcrum, which currently wouldn't get immediate answers, whereas right now you'd have to wait for a support person. Here I've asked it a detailed question about some of the sales orders in my system, and it's going to autonomously search those records and pull up any of the orders that have jobs needing attention. Sure enough, if I go searching for one of these jobs, I can see that even though it's a late job, I've got a late sales order. I've got a job that's needing review and needs attention before I can send it to the shop floor. Now, just querying the data is something we were able to put together in a relatively short amount of time. Not only are these foundational models getting better all the time, as Ryan was just telling you, but as you interact with these systems, we'll be able to understand better how you would like it to be able to understand your data, what kinds of insights you want it to be able to perform, and we'll be able to make it more and more capable, even being able to perform tasks for you, like creating quotes or sending invoices.
Thank you, guys. As we move back up the supply chain, at the top, there's actually quite a bit of changes that are happening as well. For a long time, most of these top-level OEMs have had to choose between a combination of two different realities. One is that they pay thousands and thousands of people to do supply chain analysis, to do procurement work, to understand the financial models of how they work with all their suppliers. Or sometimes, and they work with a series of manufacturers that each stack margins all the way through to help coordinate the supply chain. Recently, just in the last year, we've seen companies like SpaceX and General Electric and many others start to move towards a different type of solution, trying to manage a direct relationship with producers that skips as many of these tiers as possible and really driving as close to the business that's actually making the components as possible. They're, of course, struggling with how to do that vendor management, but it's a really, really big desire of theirs. Before COVID, I'm sure many of you have experienced, a lot of the large companies went the other direction. They try to minimize the number of vendors. They try to minimize the number of purchase orders. And really what that resulted in was really fragile supply chains and increase in costs. This demand has hit us. We've been talking to quite a few OEMs about how they can connect directly to you and work with you in a way that skips as many stacks of margin as possible. They've discovered that most of the systems that are out there just fundamentally can't connect in the way that they want to. And we're working with them to figure out how they can connect directly with you. There's a huge amount of value here. From the OEM's perspective, they're going to receive a huge reduction in costs, while at the same time being able to offer much higher prices for the exact same component. And throughout the entire supply chain, they'll be able to automatically coordinate across tens of thousands of vendors instead of just a few hundred or a few thousand, giving them a huge amount of stability that they didn't have before. It's still unclear exactly how this is going to work from an economic perspective, but any single time that you can create a relationship where both parties benefit, there's a huge amount of strength and a huge amount of value there that we're trying to explore. Our mission from our first day has always been to create a digital network of manufacturing, to create an operating system that was based on modern technology, that evolved with the times, a system that helped customers adapt to changes, to coordinate better, that enabled them to make more stuff with the same resources. We believe that eventually this would happen, but we thought it was going to be maybe 10 more years from now. We think that it's actually right around the corner, and that's changing a little bit of the shape of how we're thinking about our resource allocation. And the urgency to do this type of stuff is really high. We're really passionate about it. It'll benefit all of our customers, but there's actually a few big things that we need to accomplish before we can even facilitate this network. We do need to work on a few enabling technologies, like changing our data architecture, like creating a materials database that's ontologically extensible. But really, we need to polish and refactor our product. We need to simplify workflows. We need to add delight features. We need to increase the velocity of how people use the system. We have to create much more stability, performance, reliability, and add security to the system so that we can actually handle the surge in activity that we expect this network is going to be able to generate. We also need to enable the network to operate. We don't have a complete quality solution or a complete quoting solution, and both of those things are necessary to facilitate a network. And so while it's really exciting what we think we can accomplish this year, it may be a little bit counterintuitive to talk about how we are really excited about this stuff, and half our team is actually spent on just improving workflows instead of building features that enable the network. I really believe that there's a huge amount of wisdom here that we've heard from you guys and also from our team, that our first priority has to be to make people fly through Fulcrum as easily and as enjoyably as possible. We've added a huge amount of features that accomplish a lot of things, and it's adding all those things that's requiring us to go back and refactor a bunch of the product, both from a user experience perspective and from a technological perspective. We hear almost daily just about how incredible our functionality is, but that with just a few more tweaks, a bit of design magic, and some snappier performance, it could be truly perfect. And we believe that the dedication to the craft of creating products that you guys have taught us demands that we ensure that our product is polished as well. So we're planning on spending over half of our team, deploying 55% of our engineering, product, and design team on just that, polishing workflows, refactoring the technology. We do have to keep about 20% of our team growing the product, working on base things. And we are also going to deploy about 25% of our team to start working on some of these network features. I'm going to still talk to some of these OEMs. Other folks on the team are going to help me. And we're going to try to make these efforts as parallel as possible, but really with the focus over the next 3 to 6 months on that polish and refactor type of work. We'll talk about all three of these things more specifically later on in the stream. But first, I want Alex, who's our head of product, to run through some of the data that we collect, those annoying pop-ups of surveys that we ask you to answer, and what that data shows us and how it's guiding our decisions and how we prioritize these improvements. Alex.
Great. So I'll talk a little bit about our survey and what we do with this. So obviously we want to understand how we're doing. We want to understand all of your feedback. So about every 6 months or so, we launch a survey that pops up in app. And basically what it asks is just how disappointed you would feel if you were unable to use Fulcrum anymore. And so the gold standard for this type of survey is to get 40% of your users to love your product so much that they wouldn't want to not have to do their job without it. And so as you can kind of see here, we're kind of at that standard and actually passing it for certain roles. There's other roles like most notably your operators and shop floor team where that's not the case and we still have some work to do. But overall, we've made some really big improvements over the past year or so in this regard and how people are sort of feeling about the product. But that said, there's still obviously a ton of updates and improvements to be made. And so the other thing that we look at from that survey is just the feedback in general. And so this is from that survey that went directly out. We also gather this from all of our internal teams. We're also obviously constantly trying to talk to you guys and see how you're feeling about things. So kind of taking all of those different sources into account. But you'll start to see some themes pop out. So the big couple of themes are really workflow improvements across the board. So the green here is highlighting situations where people were really, asking about either small tweaks or enhancements or less clicks or things are confusing, that sort of thing. And you can see that, again, that kind of spans a lot of different types of modules, but those are the areas where we really want to focus on improving a lot of that user experience and just streamlining the workflows. And then the next theme that you'll see kind of generally maps back to what I'll call data architecture, but you'll see that pop up in themes from the survey around stability or performance, site speeds, that sort of thing. And then the last theme that's much, much smaller is actually just new full sort of modules. So reporting actually being the biggest one there. And then more requests around quoting, RFQ types of functionality. And so, as Sunny kind of mentioned, this leads into a lot of how we think about allocating resources across our team, what projects we're actually investing in. And so, one big one that Paul will kind of take you through here in a second maps back to all of that data architecture work. That's been a really big focus for our company as of late. And Paul will kind of walk you through what we've been working on.
Thanks, Alex. As many of you know, we spent the last 9 months migrating our data structures. This change in our underlying technology is complex but critical. It will lead to conversational AI-driven reporting. It will allow us to transmit orders between you and your vendors and between you and your customers in a way that is more structured and reliable. Very soon, it will dramatically increase performance and reliability. These types of technical changes are needed to support the amount of information that's processed through Fulcrum. On average, we store and process 6 times the amount of data that legacy systems do. This is how we create that live automated experience that helps our customers generate significantly higher throughput. When we first started Fulcrum, we had no idea that this experience would be that powerful and that widely used. Making these decisions is difficult, but we're committed to being the best partner to you. This migration is being led by our strongest engineers, and they're almost done. Out of our 600 customers, only 17 remain on the old structure, and this first phase will be complete within the next 2 months. We've also added one of our most experienced engineers to start the next phase, a phase focused on site performance. Using the new data structure, we've already created a significant improvement in some of our page load times, with more improvements to come. Next up, Dan will show you some of the new features that are powered by this new data structure.
Thanks, Paul. Some of our customers who are on the new data architecture are now able to take advantage of the growing set of pre-built reports and also create their own reports from many parts of the product. In the past, systems like Parabola or Tableau were needed for advanced custom reporting. Today, I'll show you what's possible with the new reporting engine. This is something we've wanted to offer for some time, and we're excited to give you all the more control over how you query your data, get insights, and ultimately improve your business with better information. Whether you're looking to reorganize the raw data, create a chart, or share information with your team, you'll always be referencing live data. With built-in reports that you can tweak, reports you can build from scratch, and even an AI feature to ask for a report, this tool can be used in a variety of ways. The ability to have multiple views on the same data set is convenient to splice the data how you want it. As we know, each customer is different and may want to reference data in different ways. We're actively adding more data sets to this feature, and we're looking forward to empowering you all with your own data. Back to you, Sunny.
The other component that we're trying to build into the platform to make it a good foundation to build from is this concept of a material database. In order to bring consistency to the data, we've worked hard at creating a difficult but important ontological standard for how we understand materials. All the vendors that you work with, they call things differently. They have different items based on what industry they sell to. Your customers spec things based on what they called them decades ago. They have their own internal standards, and almost all of our customers have different ways of naming their materials. We want to provide a way for you to have that flexibility of what you want to call it internally, but also provide some harmony so that we can start to do cool things like connect you to your vendors and connect you upstream to your customers. It's been a tedious process, but the early results are super exciting and has already allowed us to do really cool stuff. Liam, who's been the lead engineer on the product, is going to walk you through some of the progress that we've made. Go ahead, Liam.
Thanks, Sunny. The materials database is a fundamentally important feature to Fulcrum. As we continue to build forward, it will enable integration with suppliers as well as customers. In the past, items and inventory were a chore of accounting. Going forward, understanding live pricing changes and fluctuations in demand from your customers will help you turn materials into a competitive advantage. This deepening of the understanding of the materials that you use will lay the foundation for a more intelligent usage of Fulcrum. Day to day, this also fits within our mission of making data entry as accurate and as easy as possible. We've also been working closely with the design team to make sure that as we're updating materials, the workflows and the UI are also improved. This is a great way to foreshadow the upcoming focus on improving all of the workflows in Fulcrum. Rob and Emily from our design team will show you some of these changes.
Zooming out a little bit, it's critically important to us that our system is extremely intuitive to use. As we've continued to add new features, we've also added to the complexity, and the average user experience is actually getting worse. That's why our current focus is on revamping the entire user interface. It won't just look better, it'll be more interactive, easier to use, easier to learn, and more consistent. Let me show you some examples. We're improving search by highlighting relevant matches. We're adding new truncation tools that allow you to show additional information when you need it. We're adding media support, so like a PDF preview, so you can get to your thumbnails more quickly. And we're updating all of the forms, making data entry way easier. Text fields and date pickers will be way more intuitive. We're adding formatting tools to make data clearer and match the content type that you're working with. We're making data easier to enter by adding comma separation. And we're making error handling more informative and interactive. But on top of these small but important changes, Emily Saunders is going to show you some of the more larger, meaningful changes that we've made to give you a sense of some of the work that we're prioritizing in our polishing efforts.
Thanks, Rob. One of the big requests across all of our customers was being able to edit jobs while they're already in progress. Things change all the time, and while the status quo is to not be able to edit data in progress, this didn't fit our goal of improving accurate data and ease of data entry for our customers. We want to make these types of improvements to revolve around the concept of allowing more flexibility to ensure that your digital world is always matching the physical world, as close to real time as possible, with the least amount of effort. Let me show you what we're able to do now. You're now able to easily make changes to a BOM on an in-progress job by moving that job into edit mode and utilizing the new BOM UI to adjust operations, edit attachments, add and remove materials, and more. Once saved, these changes will be available on the job tracking view, so your operator is able to see and adjust to changes on the fly. We've also expanded the update parent feature. This is now going to include other records, allowing bulk updates for related quotes, sales orders, and jobs, reducing manual work and minimizing errors. In addition, we've added flexibility to data accuracy to vendor POs. After items have been received, you can now update prices, and calculating landing costs will be released soon. These updates will cascade to all material and subcomponents for more accurate inventory and job costing. Send it back to you, Sunny.
Thanks, guys. Even though these things may seem cosmetic, our process is to focus primarily on workflow. We want it to look really good, but more importantly, we want it to work really well. We want it to be as slim and well thought out as possible. We're going to invest really heavily on that half of the work. So of the half of the team that we're deploying to polish, about half of that team is going to be solely focused on front-end workflows and making the design of the experience better. From a product architecture perspective, it's always been our goal to create a platform of shared functionality between different types of manufacturers while allowing for industry-specific features to be built. We're the first product of our knowledge that's built in this way. Today, you have to choose between either heavily customized products that generate tens of thousands of dollars in consulting fees every time you have to change something, or in niche products that are just never going to be that large. They never have the talent or the capital to build truly innovative products and features. In both situations, whether you're spending a lot of money on consulting or you have a product that really just isn't advancing, you end up just building a lot of your own software in Excel or on paper to handle functionality that's either too expensive to customize or too weak and rigid to be useful in more niche products. We're continuing to commit to adding more industries every year. We've made a lot of progress on fab shops. We started to add features specific to Industry 2, which is CNC. We've started to work with Datanomics and other machine data providers to be able to pull information in from machines. And we're going to add other quality specific and palletization specific functionality that will be very specific to CNC shops. And we also expect to add Industries 3 and 4 later this year. I want to have some folks that have been working on the fabrication stuff to show you what we mean by industry specific features. Josh and Emily will do that now. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, Sonny. Building out the product in a complete way, industry by industry, allows us to coordinate this vision of connected manufacturing, but also deliver huge value to our customers in a way that other systems just can't. For fab shops, getting accurate quotes out fast is what makes or breaks their business. So to assist with this, we built a nesting tool that helps estimate machine time and material usage right within the quote app. So if we're looking at our quote here, we can update our BOM, put a material on it like Liam had shown you. We can put a nestable operation on it, and such as laser cutting. We assign that material to the laser cutting step, and then we upload our part geometry as a DXF onto it. Once we have these parameters, we can generate a nest right within the quote, get a feel for how those parts will lay out on our inventoried sheet, and then take this machine time and estimated material cost and apply that back to the quote so that our margins accurately reflect our nesting efficiency. So building this tool also helped us to improve the shop floor work. Emily Lupico will show you how that looks.
Great, thanks, Josh. Building on that awesome stuff that Josh has built, we've also done a lot of work to automate the decision-making process around what gets nested together closer to production. So in nest planning, we recommend work that could be nested together. You'd also do a soft nest within nest planning, so you can select parts. You can see how they lay out together on a sheet. If there's extra space on that sheet, then you could add more parts to group together here. And then you can download all of the DXF files for those parts in one package. Then you re-upload all of your final nesting file from your nesting software, and the AI parses it. It'll pull in these images, the parts, the run times, then also associate the part counts, the jobs, and then you can put this work into production so that it kicks over to job tracking for the operators to see. In job tracking, the operators will see the nest file that you imported from your nesting software, and then they'll also see this information that the AI parsed, like the images, the sheet sizes, the part count, and the jobs that they're associated with. Over to you.
Thanks, Emily. Building this network of manufacturing that we're so excited about requires us to answer two questions that are critical to how work is distributed across the supply chain. The first is quality. The reason why we're able to have a decentralized network of manufacturers today, even if it is analog instead of digital, is because of the diligent practice of making sure the parts we make match critical dimensional tolerances to allow for many shops to work on the same component. This work is currently tedious and also not complete enough in Fulcrum to allow for an automated digital connection. We plan on adding document control, tooling tracking, and other functionality to be able to make the connection between you and your customers automatic. We want them to be able to vet you out if you're a new vendor. We want them to be able to see what progress you've made. We want auditors to be able to collect evidence automatically. And we want you to be able to monitor and manage your quality system all through Fulcrum automatically. The goal is then to connect your audit history as well as any progress you've made to your customers visibly and make it much easier for them to work with you and also to give you more work. On the other side, we also need to increase the ability to provide a quick quote. We have a lot of components in Fulcrum already, and I've already had some early conversations with a well-known company in our space about licensing their engine to include in Fulcrum, helping us complete this functionality and allowing you to give potentially automated quotes directly to your customer and have them place orders with you. Lastly, we've been working with 6 of our customers who've graciously allowed us to get access to all their emails to look at the information that's in there. And we're working on a data entry system that hooks into your email through your browser and allows you to, first of all, push data into Fulcrum without having to look up the sales order or the job and type stuff in, bring in attachments and put them in the right place automatically, but also to be able to help you autocomplete within your email if there's any sort of job statuses or other information that you'd otherwise have to look up in Fulcrum and then bring into your email. And we think that the combination of all 3 of these things is what's going to allow us to facilitate the network that's starting to become more and more important for these OEMs. Our strategy, while it's different, is actually really simple. Our goal is to add and activate high quality capacity onto Fulcrum. Really good manufacturers that are important to the network are who we're trying to target. The second is to create an operating system that's easy to learn, easy to use, and that gives our customers a competitive advantage by having significantly higher throughput with Fulcrum than without it. And then lastly is to create these network forming features that allow us to automatically connect the entire supply chain from vendor all the way to finished good. We're closer today than we expected to be by almost a decade, and we're rapidly reorganizing the company around this focused roadmap. We want to make sure that we're communicating that the number one most important thing that we believe exists today is you and your shop and your capacity, not the OEMs and not the vendors. And our roadmap specifically prioritizes work that helps you first to participate in this digital network. We're putting about half of our team on this usability initiative, putting 25% on network features, and we're leaving about 20% on activating new customers and making the onboarding experience better and better every day. Each new shop that is added to Fulcrum actually starts to increase the value of the entire Fulcrum network for everybody non-linearly. Not quite super exponentially, but still, it's a positive sum situation. Everybody that we add on increases the ability for us to service even more work for all the OEMs directly. We do need some help from you. We're looking right now for about 20 shops of all sizes and shapes that will be brave enough to let us work with you on site, let us use Fulcrum next to you, build parts with you. We'll sign whatever waivers and releases for workers' comp that you need. But as we try to improve these workflows, the type of nuance that we need is one that has to be on site. We have to be able to work alongside actual users instead of the tedious process of kind of reiterating remotely. We've been able to do quite a bit through that method, but however many of these experiences we can generate in the next 3 months, every single one of them will allow us to accelerate the development of all the polished stuff that we need to be able to deliver. We're also looking for feedback and concerns as we navigate the landscape of OEMs. We're going to have these conversations over the next couple months, and we'd love to have a group of people that we can ping at any time to see, does this check out? Is this something that makes sense? Are there questions that you have that I might not have the expertise to be able to know to ask? Also, any introductions to buyers, analysts, procurement people that you think would be valuable for us to talk to would be greatly appreciated, especially folks that aren't really in the executive role, but people that are actually doing the work of placing orders with you. We want to make sure that they're heard as we talk to the executives at these organizations. As always, the work that's the most important is the one that you're doing. And so any way that we can to support you, we want to be able to do it. We know that there are a lot of things that we're investing in that are long-term focused and some that are short-term, but really our entire company is oriented around the work that you do. We have a whole team full of people that are really excited about working with you every single day, and they get it. They understand that the stuff that you build is what we need to operate our society. And we're really excited to build this really cool thing that wouldn't exist without all of you banding together and working with us. These types of events, like this live stream, are hard to put together. It was a lot of work from a lot of people. All the people that presented did a huge amount of extra work for this, but also especially Josiah, who you don't see, he's behind the scenes controlling everything. The only thing he couldn't control was Travis's mic being muted, but he's done a really good job of keeping things flowing. And Jess and Alex and Carolyn from marketing have done a lot of work inviting you guys and organizing everything. So thank you to them, and thank you guys for joining. We have a period of Q&A set aside, but before that, Carolyn has some announcements of upcoming events and other things to ask for as well. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Thanks, Sunny. There are a lot of important milestones coming up. We have our second annual user conference hosted here in Minneapolis. It'll be from April 2nd to the 4th. Right now, we're over capacity, but we are considering expanding it to offer it for more people. So if you're interested in coming, please let us know as soon as possible so we can get you added to the list. We'll be starting to demo the network to OEMs later this spring, and we'll also be attending FabTech in the fall. If you're also going to be at FabTech, we'd love to see you there. So we'll send out our booth number and come stop by and say hi. We currently also have the bandwidth to host some additional events across the country. So if you have any local events you want us to sponsor or any ideas for things you'd like us to throw in your area, please reach out. We'd love to support you in any way we can with those. If you'd like to know more about joining the network, or if you have questions about how we're thinking about it, as well as the economics and logistics of connecting with OEMs, please join the network Q&A at our user conference that I mentioned earlier, or we'll be hosting another live stream at the end of April to go over more information. As always, your referrals to great shops that care about craft and culture are super appreciated. So keep them coming, and we'll be sending out more information about our referral program in the coming weeks about how we're going to get back to you guys for all those great referrals you send us. We'll finish out the live stream, like Sunny said, with the Q&A session that Alex will host with Sunny. There's a question button on the side that he pointed out. If you can just submit any questions you have there, we'll answer them as we can. So Sunny and Alex, back over to you.
Great. All right. Sunny, can you hear me all right?
I can.
Cool. So yeah, we actually got a bunch of questions submitted ahead of time in the registration, and then obviously there have been a few that you guys can all see also in that Q&A section that have been rolling in. So anything we don't get to, we'll send you guys follow-ups afterwards as well. So we definitely want to answer all of your questions. And I think Carrie had asked also if this is recorded, and it is, so we will send out a link too. Okay, so Sunny, one of the first questions we had, which actually came up a bunch in the pre-submitted ones, was just around our plans for the materials database, timing, plans to add additional material types into it, like plastic, rubber, etc. Yeah, can you speak to some of that?
Yeah, the direction for that team has been to separate the work into two buckets. The first is actually because we're adding this material database, we got to make some changes to the workflows to make them better. So some of the stuff that you've seen in improvements to the BOM and routing editor have actually come from the materials team working to make the work of adding materials as smooth as possible. So that's being prioritized first with a slimmer set of materials. The second step will be to add a lot more materials of different types and geometries, and also to do the work to allow you to have aliases so you can call it the thing that you want to call it internally if it's important to you. And then lastly will be to make that list exhaustive and potentially live syncing with the vendors and other places as well. So that's the order of operations. We're reorganizing the team. So as of the end of this month, or potentially even next week, we're going to pause work on it for a brief period of time as we reorganize towards this big polish effort, and then we'll kind of assign and restart it. So it's still top of the priority list, but we're going to take a short break for a few days after we finish some of the workflow stuff before we start adding a ton more materials. But we hope to be able to parallelize that so that other people can help us with it over time.
And a related question just popped in about materials, asking, would it make sense to have the material database in SQL, which it already is. So yes, but Sunny, if you want to add any context to that.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of us switching to a different data architecture is so that we can have really, really good performance on structured data like this materials database. If you think about your business, it's actually just a series of 3 types of data, a bunch of events. So every single time you get an order, you place a purchase order, you receive an item, a material, you check it into inventory, you pick it, you put it on a machine, you do something with it, a human touches it, clocks into it, you take a picture of it, you ship it off, you invoice it. Every one of those things is an event. And then everything else is split into 2. They're either kind of knowledge information, It's a bunch of information on how to make stuff and all the things that you've learned as a company and how you set up your business. And then all the rest of it is relational data that's relating materials and job costs and things like that. So rechanging our architecture to support not just that relational data, but in the future supporting more event-based data and other shapes of data, that's kind of the direction that we're heading. And the material stuff certainly fits in the relational side of things.
And sorry, Carlos, I misread that as SQL versus square foot. So we misanswered your question. So yeah, I apologize for that. But yeah, in terms of just adding more units to measure, that sort of thing, yeah, those are things that we do want to add. But like Sunny was mentioning, there's kind of a hierarchy of additional polish that we're doing as well. Cool. Okay, switching gears a little bit, there were a lot of questions about reporting also that were submitted ahead of time. Just questions about how the customer reporting module is going and sort of what's next there.
Yeah, the best way to describe it is that the functionality, the technology is hooked up. It's working, but it's hooked up to a subset of the data collections that are in our system. Right now, if those data sets are inside what's already been hooked up, you can report on them and you can use the AI to generate reports for you already. There are other data sets that haven't been added on yet, and we're adding them over time. And the work is essentially about understanding how people are going to use it the most, what is the most important. And so our account management team is actually heading that up, learning how people want to use the reporting, kind of one type of data at a time. I'd say that we're just about halfway done, but it'll take a little bit of time working with certain customers. And if you have certain requirements or suggestions, please absolutely let your account manager know.
Thanks. All right, and then there were a few questions that rolled in the chat, but actually had semi-related questions also that came in ahead of time. But yeah, love the idea that I think it was Ryan Herbert that outlined this. If information exists somewhere else, you shouldn't have to type it into Fulcrum. That's sort of core to a lot of the work we've been trying to do. But any plans to apply that to other integrations, for example, Shopify orders, syncing the production jobs?
Yeah, for us, just like everything else, it's a set of priorities. For one, we want to make the data entry within Fulcrum better. That's a lot of what the polish work is going to be doing from a workflow perspective. Two, there are data sets that are external that'll help you. People may have RFID type of devices where we don't actually need an operator to clock in. We just know that they're next to a machine. We can get data from those sources pretty easily. There's data from the machines themselves. There's other data as well. Some other companies that we work with have RFID tags that scan under arches, and we can know that the material is moving around. So you don't actually have to pick materials as long as you know what was actually stored on that particular pallet. So there's a lot of other data that's outside of Fulcrum that can come in, and the Shopify integration would certainly fit under that umbrella. And then lastly, there's data that's just not collected right now. That's some of the really cool stuff that I think is still really far away. We've deprioritized it, but David, who you heard from before, spent some arduous time figuring out how to use the camera feed data potentially from the tablets that you have. We have ideas about vibration tracking and things like that. All of that to passively collect as much information as possible. While we don't think that with just Fulcrum you can have no operator input, we think that you can get to probably 95% less than what you're doing right now. And the priority is within Fulcrum integrations, and then like new data is third.
Nice. And then there were actually sort of two related questions related more so to the AI side of things. But one of them came up of building on that, maybe also having some AI-powered scanning of customer purchase orders to auto-populate a sales order. And then there was another question or sort of observation that all the information that you need is really in an RFQ email, and AI could parse some of that. So yeah, if you want to speak to those.
Yeah, one of our engineers has been working with a few of our customers to look at emails, and some of the insight is actually there's almost always like at least 4 or 5 emails of back and forth before you actually get an order. you got to move a hole, or you got to like change material, or something that's not on the drawing. So our hunch that we're working on right now from a product development perspective is that with those emails plus the actual order that you get, by having like a Chrome extension in a browser that just is on Gmail or Outlook or whatever you're using, we can detect that this is an RFQ. We can pull the attachment automatically, feed it into an AI. It puts it in the right place and stores the attachment as well. So that's our leading answer on how we make that a really, really nice process. For now, we have this engine that reads PDFs already, and we likely will apply it in a more manual way for you to just drag and drop in an RFQ or a sales order into that particular page. That work will likely be part of the polish work. We just really we don't know where we're going to prioritize that yet.
Great. Okay, and then kind of switching a little bit out of the AI world. I think. Sorry, this may be the wrong one, but I will just ask this one instead. What are Fulcrum's plans for NIST or CMMC? So this has come up a lot, obviously, as there's a lot changing there. But yeah, Sunny, go ahead.
We have a tentatively scheduled audit date already for later this year in November. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and there's still really not a huge amount of readiness for auditors. Folks that were part of the early beta program with the Department of Defense have a fast track to audit, but all the rest of us, including you guys, kind of have to wait for folks to know how to audit. Now there's a lot of work that's being done. We still have to make some architectural changes from a product perspective and from an engineering perspective, but those changes don't seem at this point in time to be super heavy. They're little tweaks in the standards that have happened over the last few months. But we have plans to get compliance audited towards the end of this year.
Yes. Cool. And then this was a question that was submitted actually a couple of times also prior. Just more questions around our plans for quoting features, including AI-driven improvements or not. What's sort of our plans there?
Yeah, not to get too technical, but ISO and AS9100 both come from this directive or this methodology called the Annex SL methodology, which is now just called Annex L. And these two organizations are kind of heading in a direction where they're going to try to complement each other more than before, which is the reason why we think that we can actually do something really cool now internally with Fulcrum. So when we talk about the network initiative that we're deploying some resources to, that quality work is going to fit under that bucket. We will have much stronger and much more easy document management, whether from an engineering perspective or from a customer revision perspective. We'll also have other functionality to make sure that audit trails and evidence gathering happen automatically too. So tooling tracking, not quite to the level of replacing an upkeep or some other preventative maintenance system, but enough for you to track it in a way where you can have a really easy and nice dashboard that tells you how many hits you put on a particular tool or how many hours you put on a particular machine. All that functionality will be part of what we expect as a full quality management solution.
Awesome. Okay, and then there were some quality related questions. So we had touched on this a little bit earlier, but just plans around adding more support for audits and compliance and tracking things in audit logs.
I think with that evidence gathering, all of those things will fall in there. We currently actually have pretty strong audit tracking in terms of who's changing information on a particular object. Traceability and like interrogation, being able to parse it out and dissect it, is the functionality that we don't have. But we already actually are storing quite a few of the actions that are going on today.
Awesome. And then this came up in the chat and a few other times as well, but just questions around our plans also for RFQ functionality.
Part of our goal from an RFQ perspective is to, at the very first, at least eliminate the need for a lot of them by connecting with different suppliers. On top of that, we think that we can clean up the remaining RFQ functionality to be more specific to powder coaters and things like that that aren't static materials RFQs. Right now, we have plans for RFQs to be part of the workflow in Polish, but it's not really high up on the list. If there's a reason why it's more important than something else, obviously we're going to listen to our customers. But for right now, we're looking to finish current workflows that exist first before adding new workflows. But we do understand that RFQs are well requested by a lot of people.
Cool. Great. I think we have time for one more question. Last one we had queued up here was, I think, kind of related to a lot of the work we've been talking about of just making Fulcrum easier to use. But can you please change the items list to be in order of recently created / modified instead of alphanumeric? Searching for an item over and over is exhausting.
That will be coming.
Cool.
All right, thank you everybody for joining. If there's other questions, please direct them our way and we'll try to answer them as best as possible asynchronously. But for those of you that are coming next month, excited to see you. And those that aren't, we'd love to include you in some of our working sessions in the future. Appreciate it.
Thanks.